Yeah.
What's up, you scholars of enlightenment? So, just wanted to jump on a quick stream today because a few of you who might have seen a couple of our tech updates or tech reviews, monthly tech reviews with Ramsey. Well, we managed to get into the paper this today. So we are in the Telegraph, or the Tory graph, as some people like to call it, for cracking the Wordle code. So I wanted to do a quick live stream, update you on what's going on. I will say, first of all, Ramsey, that this completes a nice duo for me because we've got a nice little article in the Tory graph here, and I had a nice little article in the Guardian a few years back for the CERN comedy show. So nice two-siding of the spectrum there. A bit of left-right action. So I can curate my audience a little bit more and maybe have a little bit of a wider reach. Do you want to tell the
and you've been mistaken for a Guardian journalist when we've been talking in the past as well? So
yeah, what that's not yeah, I don't know about that. I'm not sure. But do you want to tell people
out there?
We've lost the audio.
It's come back.
Do you want to tell?
It came back. Do
you want to tell the people out there what's been going on with this this article and why we have found ourselves in the paper today?
I got the real one. It's all blurred. It's a good picture of you in a blue dress on the front cover.
Excellent.
Well, should I just read it?
Yeah, please do. Yeah. So let's. Do you want to tell everyone vaguely why we're in there, and then we'll read it. And I haven't actually read it yet, so you can have a nice live reaction from me as to whether it's a good article.
So I think I sent you a Wordle a few weeks ago, didn't I?
You did.
For some reason, I think I'd written a funny poem in it that I thought was hilarious, and still won at the end. And you had no idea what I was doing and why it was funny and anything about it.
And at that stage, I was still in the why the fuck are there all these coloured blocks all over my Twitter timeline? What the fuck does it mean? It seems weird. There's a lot of people I don't like doing it. Okay. And then you popped up and I was like, okay, maybe I'll have to have a look into this. So that was the status I was at when you sent it.
So I told you that this game from the 70s or 80s had come back to life via the power of the internet.
Yeah.
Because this is very, very similar to something that was called Battleships and all sorts of other versions of trying to guess some words by being told letters
Hangman and things like this. And
very similar to Hangman, exactly. So I'm sure everyone listening knows what Wordle is. But being the scientists and geeks that we are, we immediately started discussing things like, is it going to be possible to win every single word?
Yeah.
And what's the best strategy? And so on and so forth. And how do you go about finding the best word and all of these sorts of things? And it's really obvious about letter frequencies in the English alphabet and stuff like that. But we very quickly knew that we would need to know if there were any words removed from the list, because we assumed that there would be no shock horror for Gran one morning that penis was the winning word on Wordle and stuff like that. So we assumed that a bunch of words would have been removed.
Yeah.
So in order to do the analysis properly that you're going to talk us through today, we quickly realized we needed to try and find the actual list. And actually two ways came about, didn't they, sort of simultaneously, because you were poking some people you'd come across to see if they had the list or try and get the list off the official author. But I had a poke around on the website itself, which I'm sure you'll bring up.
There's a friendly, sociable way where I email a couple of people and say, could you tell me the words that you use for the answers so I can do a bit of analysis? And then that sort of went nowhere. And then there's the more hardcore way that you Google and see if somebody has hacked the source code of the site and been able to extract the answers by force. And that one was a little bit more forthcoming, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, before we noticed other people had done it before, I just exactly went into developer mode on my browser just to see if to see if it really was what it actually turned out to be, which is that the list of answers was all just there in plain text if you knew how and where to dig in the JavaScript of the website. And I kind of thought there was a chance that the words might all be there and they were being randomly chosen via some part of the code you couldn't then see. And that perfectly possible, and that we would just try and get the sort of plain text list of words up, but we would never know which way it was hopping around. But as soon as we saw the list and I searched for whatever that days had been, I recognized the day before and the day before that, and then sure enough tried the next day.
So what you would expect,
the list that is sitting in source is the list of answers sequentially by day.
So what you would expect is that if this was some sort of commercial game, that there was a list of possible answers to Wordle puzzles, and once every day some random generator runs, spits out the answer for the day, but you're not able to just see it in the source code, so you go and play the game. This would be what we needed.
Yeah, the game would. Yeah, the game would need you to have an internet connection and a cloud server completely separated from the program that runs on your browser or on your phone would randomly choose a word every day. And the game would check in over the internet and be told that one word for that one day. And there wouldn't be a way of cheating in the future. But that's not how the designer designed Wordle, because it was never designed for this purpose. It was just a bit of fun that he wrote it for his girlfriend.
So because he did it for a bit of fun for his girlfriend, he didn't lock anything down like you would do with a commercial game, which means all of the raw answers in date order are just sat there in the source code if you know where to dig. So as you say, once you find one word, yesterday was what, point, I think? Once you found that one reference point, hey, great word for it, you know exactly what the next 10, 20, 100 solutions are going to be in date order. So that's what we saw. And then we discovered a few other people have noticed this in the past, but for some reason the newspaper thought that we were good candidates to stick in the paper on this.
Well, I cheekily tweeted something like, does anyone want to know tomorrow's Wordle? I think I've cracked the generator, as a bit of just a silly joke between us. And a couple of reporters poked me about it. But it's been quite fun writing to people in Twitter in Wordlese. So I've been sending a few dates for people to then go and make their own generator and decode the messages I've been sending them. Fun.
So do you want to read this? Because it's not particularly long. It's only like 5-6 paragraphs. No. Do you want to read it?
Yeah.
And so, we'll have a bit of reaction to it.
The title is Mum's the Wordle. Very clever. Mum's the Wordle for code breakers who discovered games secrets. So, and shout out to Tom Uff. I don't know how to pronounce.
I always thought it was O.
Remember the guy that interviewed us?
I'm sure it must be O.
Tom
surely. O-U-G-H. I assume it's O.
Yeah, depending on where you're from, that GH might be an F sound, but yeah, I don't know. Anyway, onwards. There are many approaches to solving a Wordle game. Some players of the wildly popular word-guessing game start with whichever 5-letter word first comes into their head. Others make tactical use of words containing common letters.
Starting with the first word that comes into your head would be an awful strategy, surely. Like, what? Like, penis. That's what you said. The first word that comes... If somebody says 5-letter word, you're like, oh, for fuck's sake, it's penis, obviously. So, terrible word to start with. You know, actually, to be fair... E is common, N is relatively common, I is another vowel, S is common, P's not overly uncommon. It's probably not bad, actually. I'll have to give it a go and see how it goes in the generator. But yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, carry on.
Well, we know it. We know it's one that you'll never get first time on because it's been created and removed from the solutions list.
True.
But still, there is an S at the end, and maybe we'll discuss later as to whether that should or should not be a useful word. A small number of Wordle fans, however, have found another route to the answers, but are respecting the game's code of silence by keeping the solutions private. Two computing experts who met at the University of Cambridge are among those who have discovered that the code underpinning the Wordle webpage contains each day's solution from cigar on June 19th, 2021 to, well, that would be telling.
Well, so
Ramsey Faragher.
Wait there, I'm going to pick a bone with this. I'm so far from a computing expert. It's not even funny. Like, you should see the state of the code I've been running. So I'm not. I think that's given me a lot of credit that I probably don't deserve. But yeah, carry on.
Dr. Ramsey Faragher, a bi-fellow at Queen's College and the founder of a tech company. They didn't put focal point in there, but that's fine. Never mind. I've said it on the YouTube channel now.
Never mind.
Tipped off his less handsome friend and former student, Dr. Sam Gregson. A former Large Hadron Collider physicist who is now a comedian, that's with a K, and science commentator. As Dr. Faragher predicted, Dr. Gregson found the list of answers within the web page's source code.
I think
It
you
certainly
did
seems
that,
to be the
but
case.
never mind.
Well, I found it and gave it to you, but close enough. It certainly seems to be the case that there is an informal code of silence and a great deal of community spirit in the Wordle community, Dr. Gregson said. Few seem to want to share or broadcast the readily available answers, and those that do are met with gentle hostility or eye-rolling silence. 2 people on Twitter did call me a 4-letter word that says, "Does anybody want tomorrow's one?" So there we go.
Yeah, it wasn't even a 5-letter word.
Space.
Exactly.
No. Many more people were much more pleasant about it.
That's true.
Dr. Gregson, 38, is using the information he and Dr. Faragher, 39, have unearthed to craft an analysis of optimal Wordle strategy for his video channel. Am I really only one year older than you?
I got a mention for my channel in the Tory graph, and you didn't. Focal Point didn't even get a thing. I guess maybe because it's a commercial venture. I guess maybe that's the.
I don't know.
Well,
the guy did say to us that he wrote a lot that got caught on the floor, so they might have just chopped it all down.
To be fair, given that he said, I think he's used Bad Boy of Science for like his segue into the next line, so that's the only reason he's mentioned it.
He does. He basically says, "Bad boy though he may be, Dr. Gregson does not wish to crimp."
There we go.
Come back to that.
We'll come back to that.
Others' enjoyment of the game. As such, he is cagey about publicly revealing the list of answers. Are you really just a year younger than me? I supervised you when you were in your first year and I was doing my PhD. Did you take like multiple gap years to go and like survey the world or something?
Yeah, I was quite late, wasn't I? So I took a gap year before I went to Cambridge. Actually, it was my own fault because I applied to do engineering and then changed to do, because I wanted to do NatSki instead. And then they said you can do it, but you'll have to wait until next year. So that was a year missed. And then I was one of the oldest in my year anyway, so that's basically a couple of years. And then at the end of the 4 years in Cambridge, I went and worked in London for a couple of years. So that's maybe 4 or 5 years. So that sort of adds on. I should probably, you would expect me to be about 32, 33. But there's like 4 or 5 years in there that just sort of got added on.
Well, I'm even more disappointed in your first ever lab report now that I've realised you were like 2 or 3 years older than I thought you were at the time. But anyway,
2 or 3 years older, what, like 6 months. But okay, fine.
Well, it's not like I did my PhD aged 15. But anyway, for some reason there was only a 1 year age gap between us, where there should have been about 4. Anyway, where was I?
That's probably why I was like, this knob talking to me. And he looks about 12. He can do one.
Can't even grow a moustache. Exactly. Right. Appropriately for a game whose integrity is so highly valued, Wordle has innocent origins. Designed by Welsh-born software engineer Josh Wardle, I see what he did there, to entertain his puzzle-loving partner. Wordle was a simple online game whose players, the 2 of them, sought to guess a 5-letter word in 6 attempts. Then it went viral. So I think we found out a little bit about this, right? That he kept it just between her and his girlfriend, and then they told a few friends, told family, and it just completely went from word of mouth into being the thing it is today.
Yeah, so I think this is why it's all not locked down. It's not sort of commercialized. He didn't ever anticipate it would go out to a massively wider audience, so there was no expectation of having to do that. So having all the answers there is now something that if you'd known it was going to go viral, you probably would have done. But if it's just going to your girlfriend and, I don't know, she doesn't know how to look in the source code or isn't going to look in the source code, then why waste your time doing that? Just
That's just what I was going to say. I'd love it if the second day they ever started playing it together, she'd been secretly like right-clicking on Chrome and just getting all the answers up. And just cheerily getting it in 3 every single time.
Exactly.
We'll never know. Having had 90 players on the 1st of November last year, Wordle reached 2.7 million last week. That is pretty impressive. Does he literally mean just last year? So no, 1st of November, just like.
So what there's like 200 dancers so far, haven't they? I thought. Or is it less than that?
Yes, true. They're on like 215, 250 odds. 215. So But
Well,
I mean,
divide
if it
that by
literally
7.
started as
That
just
feels
something
like
from
30.
Marvel.
That feels like 30 weeks. So that feels like about 6 months. But
We can check because when people post I know. Sorry, I can tell from my generator exactly when it was first. Very first day. Hang on, the very first day is in the article, 19th of June.
makes sense.
19th
So
of
about
June was
6
the very
months, yeah.
first day.
So it makes sense. About 6
So
months.
they went from 19th of June to 1st of November, just family and friends, getting to about 90 players. Yeah.
Cool.
Where was I? So along the way, many of its players began to use mathematics to devise the most effective opening plays possible. Good lead up to what we're about to talk about.
So this is where we came in, right? Because I was like, I'm not particularly interested in this game. I'm kind of getting annoyed by people on Twitter. But then when we decided that we might be able to break it with maths, then I became a little bit more interested, and we're going to talk about that when we've finished this last paragraph.
If we ever get off this,
Yeah.
exactly, we're almost there.
Yeah.
Along the way, many of its players began to use mathematics to devise the most effective opening plays possible, with little known words such as roate catapulted back into the English lexicon. And that is one of the ones that's in your top list, isn't it?
It
we'll
is.
come to shortly.
It is.
The informal omerta has not been universally observed. That is a sentence that even I don't understand.
Omerta is like keep it silent, isn't it? Keep it stumm, I think.
That makes sense from the context.
The only sort of way I've heard it is in a sort of gangster film or something where you don't snitch. So I'm pretty sure it means sort of keep it secret. Do you want me to look? I'll have a look.
Omertas get stitches.
Yeah, basically snitches get stitches. Omerta definition, I'm pretty sure means, Italian, a code of silence about criminal activity. So there you go.
There we go.
Word knowledge.
Jill Sutcliffe, a moderator on a Facebook group of Wordle aficionados, says that upcoming answers have been posted on 2 occasions. Mrs. Sutcliffe, a retired court worker who lives in Fife, doesn't say her age.
No.
Or whether she ever started up a company.
No.
Swiftly deleted the offending posts, saving the group's 9,000 members from having their daily Wordle session ruined. It was awful, she said. Because once you see the answers, you can't unsee them.
Terrible.
But mostly people are respectful. The Daily Telegraph has verified the list, but will not spoil the game by revealing the answers. Should you doubt Doctors Gregson and Faragher, though, check Sunday's answer against a 5-letter word beginning with C used in this article. Feel free to rewind on YouTube at this point.
Yes, exactly.
As long as you're doing it before Sunday.
So, I mean, it was a nice little article. It was nice to get a little bit of recognition, get the name of the channel in the list as well. I'm going to make a video over the next couple of days about the statistically best strategies that we've come up with. There's a few ways you can sort of go through that are best, quote unquote. So, but most people seem to come up with very similar words when they do this via different methods. So maybe we can jump into a bit of that as well now that we finished that. So that was nice, right? What did you think about that article?
Yeah. As you say, it was a nice little, considering the amount of work you've put into it over the last couple of weeks to get all of this stuff they're about to talk about today. It was a nice little touch that one tweet got us a few columns on page 7.
It's because you've got so many ins about tech stuff with these guys, right? So it's I think yours is a bit more under surveillance than maybe mine is, but maybe that'll push me up a little bit to into this sphere. So what I've been doing,
I'm just double checking tomorrow's word as well. Tomorrow's word is indeed in all of the stuff I read out earlier. It may even be the word I paused on earlier.
Sunday, actually.
Anyway, go ahead.
So, do you want to talk about some of the strategies we've been discussing?
Yes.
So,
Let's do that. And
I'm going to write this up in a proper video over the next couple of days. But essentially, we've been working on some optimal strategies to use to solve these Wordle problems. Now, Wordle has 2,315 possible solutions. These are a curated list of answers, as we talked about, but you can actually guess 12,972 possible inputs. So the game, if I get a little window up here, in fact, that one's solved, so I won't. Let's have a look at the clear window. So you can enter about 13,000 possible entries. And these were lists that were given to me by Ramsey, my friend Aidan, Andrew Taylor, who's got a little bit of a YouTube channel on this sort of topics as well. And using those lists, you can start to get some strategies as to what might be the best words that really wipe out a hell of a lot of those possible answers in one go, two go, three goes, and therefore solve the Wordle in the statistically lowest number of goes. Now,
just to clarify that point, sorry to cut you off.
No, please.
But we talked about the two word lists, and it's because in the source code of the website, what I didn't say before is there are indeed two word lists. There's a word list of valid entries, and then there's the list of all of the possible solutions. And so that is how there is one list that's much bigger than the other. That's how you've got both of those lists. And it just so happens that the solutions list is in date sequential order.
Exactly right. So if you want to think about what might be the best Wordle word to start with, now best depends on how you define best. So best could be, do I want the maximum number of green matches? Do I want to find the most number of letters in the right place in the word? Do I want to find the most yellow matches? Just the most number of letters that are in the word? It turns out that best, quote unquote, or the way that I've defined it, is what is the word that we can put in that will end up solving the puzzle in the fewest number of downstream goes. And the way that you can do this is you want to pick a word that breaks up all the possible answers into evenly sized bins. So a nice analogy to use is if I asked you, Ramsey, and I'll ask you the question, I said to you that I'm thinking of a number between 0 and 1,000. And you can ask me questions that are yes/no questions. What question would you ask me first?
I asked a lot of undergraduate computer science entry students a very, very similar question to this about 4 years ago, because it's a well-known method in sorting computer science. So did you say between 1 and 1,000?
1 and 1,000.
So you'd go for 500.
Yes. Is it above or below 500? I tell you it's above 500. What's the next question that you ask me?
You go for 750.
750.
And you keep cutting in half the gap, and this is called a binary chop.
Exactly.
And it's an efficient search method.
Exactly. So what we're looking to do is break down the possible solution, so all the numbers between 0 and 1,000, into essentially evenly sized boxes, right? We keep cutting things down into half, a half, a half, but we're cutting into two evenly sized boxes each time. And that's the most efficient way to find the number between 0 and 1,000 in the fewest goes. Now, if we apply that to Wordle, well, Wordle can give a different set of responses, but it essentially works in the same way. So if I pull up that solved Wordle puzzle, where was it? I think it's in here. Let's just put in a word here. So let's just put in arise, let's say. Yeah. So, actually, I don't want to use this one, do I? Because it's one that I want to use in a minute.
There you go.
So here's a nice example. So if I put a word into Wordle, it can fire back some responses. It can fire back black, telling me that the letter I've put in is not in the solution. It can fire back yellow, telling me that the word is in the solution but not in the right place. Or it can fire back green, telling me that I have guessed the right letter and in the right position. Now, it turns out that instead of having two choices, greater than or less than 500, greater than or less than 750, there are 243 responses that can be fired back to any word. That's 3 choices in the first box, times 3 choices in the second box, times 3 choices in the third box, times 3 choices in the fourth box, times 3 choices in the fifth box. So black, yellow or green in each box, times those 3's together, 3 to the power of 5 is 243. And what we want to do when we're trying to solve Wordle puzzles is think of a word that breaks up all of the possible solutions into evenly sized 243 boxes. So we want as many of the...
There's an interesting way to think about this,
please,
which is that the 243 possible outcomes you just mentioned are effectively the 243 different patterns of black, yellow, and green.
Exactly.
That could be spread out across, in your case, ROATE. So that one pattern there, that's 4 greys and then a green, is one of the 243 ways that you can color those boxes green, yellow, or grey.
Yeah.
And so what we're kind of saying is you want to put a word in where the response pattern that comes out basically points you towards a column of all of the possible words that it could be now, because you got grey, 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 green as the response. And what you want is to put an input word in where there's you've got the most even possible spread of all of the words allowed in all of those 243 possible answers.
Because what that means, if you get an even number of responses of each type, is that there's not one possible set of responses, which is huge, right? So you haven't narrowed down the answers enough. And this is what the game Absurdle does, right? It picks the worst possible box of those answers for you on the next go, which we'll maybe talk a little bit about later. But we want to break down, or we want to put a word in so that we get even numbers of responses in those 243 boxes. And when I run that analysis and take all the possible inputs that I can put, it turns out that the best answer that you can put in on the first go is the word roate. So if I put in the word roate, this evenly separates out, or as evenly as possibly separates out, the 2,315 possible Wordle solutions. So it is statistically the best way to start, in my opinion.
And I think a key thing here is that it's because of that curated word list that it's that word, isn't it? So if you do the experiment across the full possible, all 5-letter words, including all the naughty ones, you get a different word. And one of the things that the curated list appears to have done, that Josh either did intentionally or accidentally, is that there's a quite small proportion of words with an S at the end. Whereas in the full list of all 5-letter words in the whole of the English language, there's a lot of plural 4-letter words.
Yes.
Parks, barks, cuts, etc., cutes, whatever. And it's a curated list with very few S's at the end. So the word for all possible 5-letter words, I don't know if you remember what it is, but we did see it, didn't we?
Yes, I think he came back with Arles, Arles. Yep. But obviously that's if you take all possible 5-letter words in the English dictionary. And as you say, if you've got a curated word list, the best word is going to depend on that curated list of solutions. So that's why it was important for us to hack that list off the website, to be able to, essentially, if you know the answers, you know what set of solutions you need to focus your algorithm towards, which allows you to get better, more focused answers for the problem in hand. So maybe we can run this live for today's puzzle. So I've got a fresh Wordle word up, and I won't enter that one. I'll keep it. So let's start with our opening solution, which is, I believe, the best way that you can separate out the boxes for all the possible solutions that it could be for Wordle is to type in the word roate. And I get back that I've matched 1E. Now, what can I do with that information? Well, I can take that information and I can put it into my little algorithm that I've made, and I can put the response in that I get back. Now, what this algorithm will do is then filter down all of the responses and remove anything that doesn't conform to that style of response. So what did we get there, Ramsey? We got 4 blacks and a green, yes? So if we put those responses into our little code here, black, 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 and green. And I can save that and I can run it. And what the code will now do is do exactly the same thing again, but on a shrunk down word list. So it will remove any answers that don't conform to the information that we just got back, and then just rerun the analysis again. How can I chop the remaining answers up with another word into evenly sized bins? And if I go back through this, ignore my horrific code, Ramsey. It tells me that I should, please don't look at my horrendous code. It tells me that I should go and try the word Klein. So we can try the word Klein. So there's quite a few words that we could try. And it wants me to try the word Klein. So we'll go and put in the word Klein into our... be embarrassing if it doesn't work now, right? So we'll put in the word Klein and we'll see what response we get.
What's this? This is today,
So
isn't it?
pretty good, right? So because we've narrowed down the solutions as quickly as possible, statistically as quickly as possible, we've already forced Wordle to start giving us a hell of a lot of information back very, very quickly. So if I put in the response to the word Klein now, so we put in the word Klein, and what were we told? We were told that if we put in the word Klein, that we get back a hell of a lot of information. So we get back yellow, black, yellow, yellow, green. Yellow, black, yellow, black, yellow, yellow, green. And we'll just run again, because again, we've shrunk down the words, the solutions that it can be with all of the information from the previous go. So we rerun the analysis again on a smaller set of words this time. And hey presto, we come up with the word wince as the best possible solution. Now it turns up actually, and this is a problem that comes up a lot in this code, that there are 3 possible answers that can't be decided between: wince, mince, and since. And there's no statistics here that can help you because it's just a 1 in 3 shot, right, Ramsey? Can you see these? Can you see these 3 words?
Yeah.
It tells me that the 3 best guesses are wince, mince, and since. And I think this is actually why the Wordle word list is so curated, because you can get into a situation very quickly where you have a lot of words where you get down to a 1 letters left, where it's a pure guess. So let's say you have a space and then R-I-C-K. It could be brick, it could be trick, it could be Rick, it could be something like that. And I think the curation stops you falling into these traps where you're just guessing at 1 letter. So that might be why the list is so curated and you get 6 guesses. So it tells me to try wince, and I'll go back to my puzzle, and I will try indeed wince. And wince, if I enter, hey presto, impressive, solved in 3. So it looks
There's
like
an alternative little bit though here, isn't there? So if you go back to your code, what were your options? Wince, mince, and what?
wince, mince, and since are the ones that will filter out the answers best on the next go.
Yeah. So you've got game theory here, right? So you've got a worst case scenario, which is that you're going to have 3 more guesses.
Correct.
Right? You've got a best case scenario, which is that you'll try 1 of those and get it right, like you just did then, 1 out of 3 probability.
Yeah.
Or we can guarantee getting it in 2. And the way we can guarantee getting it in 2 is, I can't see for the resolution, but was it wince, mince, and what?
Since.
Wince, mince, and since. So we would next put in a 5-letter word that used W, M, and S, and then
Now we would in
gets
easy
marked out.
mode. The problem is in hard mode you're forced to use the letters from before, so you might be trapped in hard mode to not be able to do that. In easy mode, you're right. What we would have to do is put in a word that had W, M, and S to be able to filter that down. So in easy mode you can do those sort of fishing expeditions. In hard mode you get stuck in these little patterns where you're forced to use the information from above. So you're, as you say, you're stuck in a choice of 1 of 3.
Do you want to do tomorrow's, and I'll tell you how many you're going to get it in?
Shall we try tomorrow?
Do you want to give it a go?
Okay, we'll try tomorrow.
Yeah,
So obviously I can't do it on here.
I don't even need to reveal the answer. I'll just tell you how many you got it in.
Okay, fine.
So,
All right.
What's your opening word?
Wait. Let me clear. So tomorrow's, don't tell me the answer. Yes? Don't tell me the answer. We'll see if we get it. If this fails now, I'm going to feel really bad, right? So
what's your opening word?
Row 8. Always row
The
8,
same as
because the
before.
solutions are the same every day, right?
R-O-A-T-E.
R-O-A-T-E.
Okay. R-O-A-T-E, which means I will tell you that the first cell is yellow.
You've got to get these right, by the way, because if you tell me the response is wrong, that's on you.
Yeah, of course. That's why I'm now double checking.
Right.
You've
exactly.
got one yellow at the front.
Right, I got
You've
yellow.
got one yellow at the front, and everything else is grey.
And everything else is black, right? What I've called black, but yes, okay, fine.
Yep.
So yellow, black. Okay, fine.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it doesn't really matter that the first response is so bad because I still get a lot of information. I know that O, A, T, and E, very common letters, are not in it. So I actually get a hell of a lot of information, even though it seems like it's bad, right? I'm going to go with Crusy. Crusy. Crusy, Ramsey.
Interesting words. So I can tell you that you have 2 greens now.
Oh, hold up. Was that the filtered words? Yes, that was right. Crusy. Crusy.
You now have 2 greens at the front, and I'm afraid everything else is still grey.
Yeah, but two greens at the front is massive, right? So Crusy. Yeah. So you're saying
this is bringing us on to my next point about people that keep claiming to get it in 2 on Twitter.
Well, we'll talk about that in a second.
Go on.
So green, black. Yes.
You've got 2 greens and 3 grey.
Right. Fine.
Yeah.
Okay with that. Rerun. I'm sure people are screaming at the code that I'm doing because it's absolutely awful. So don't look at my code and think I'm some sort of genius coder.
I'll tell you what we'll do to
right. So I've got 2 even answers. It's crimp or crick, and I can't tell between them because standard deviation and ashes.
Well, there we go. What we'll say is
I've solved it.
50 chance of getting it right from here.
I've solved it. Right. I'm gonna go crimp. I'm gonna go crimp because it's on the top of the list. But I don't know if it's crimp or crick. So I've solved it in 3 or 4. So is it crimp?
If you were listening to me read out the newspaper earlier.
All right, it's crimp then. It's crimp. It's crimp. Is it crimp?
It is. We've naughtily broke the internet 3 hours early.
Okay, fine. So we solved tomorrow's, which is if you didn't want any spoilers too late, it's crimp. So and my algorithm has solved it in 3 goes, which is nice. Right, so the next step that I need to do with this is V1. I've got a hard code. I've got to type things over all the possible solutions and see how many steps it takes to solve all the possible solutions. And hopefully what I'll see is a nice little Gaussian peaking at 3 or 4 goes and none that sneak off over 6. And that will mean it can solve every possible puzzle. And then I will have a Wordle killer little bot. And I can bask in the daily Twitter glory of putting my little blocks up there. So, yeah, it looks like it works, thankfully.
So my next ponder was I keep seeing people who are hitting streaks of getting it in 2, which seems intriguing. So how many bins did you say there were? 253?
243. Come on, Ramsey. How can it be a power of 3 and it's got 253? How can that? Come on.
Oh, well, you often say the wrong things to me. I was just checking what it was you said.
Well, true.
So, and 2,315 solutions. So order of magnitude, let's say it's 2.5 and 2.5. That's quite easy. So there's like on a good day, if it's all nicely distributed amongst the bins, then there's only 9 or 10 words left.
Yeah.
If you had this, like, okay, I've seen my pattern, and now I know that there's these 9 or 10 words left in that bin remaining. So when people are getting it in 2 goes, that's a roughly 1 in 9, roughly 1 in 10 chance.
Yeah,
so,
I think that's probably
people
pretty
who have
fair.
a streak of that is pretty impressive. But for people to be getting a 1 in 10 probability event multiple days in a row is a little bit eyebrow raising.
So let me run that count myself. So if you had a perfectly statistically bin cutting answer and you had 243 like you said and you had about 2,000, so and about 2,500 answers, so that's about 10 per bin like you said, 9-10 per bin. Yeah, so and then off that, if you're doing it on the second go, you're making a wild guess 1 out of 10. So if If you're saying
so you'd expect to only have that happen every 10th day,
every 10th
not
day,
multiple times in a row.
and if you're doing it 2 days in a row, it's probably like a 1 in 100 shot. If you're doing it 3 days in a row, it's probably something like a 1 in 1,000 shot. So people who keep posting that they're getting it on the second go are almost certainly cheating.
They're independent events, I suppose.
They are. So, you probably should do a proper binomial probability on it, but
yeah, but still, yeah, you'd expect to only get that tweet of someone celebrating them getting it into roughly, once every quarter. Not no, sorry, it's not. It's a daily thing, not a monthly thing. So yeah, once every fortnight or so.
Yeah.
So I shall keep an eye out if I see people that seem to be getting it a little bit too often.
So now we can be Wordle police and go around and say the probability that you got these answers is 0.001. Can you
probability of this streak is low.
Can you explain yourself, please?
Yeah. Especially with your starting word. What I did wonder, when you sometimes see people's patterns, is if you can work backwards to figure out what their first guess was based on the pattern they post on the internet. Because of course, you know the answer. You know the bottom box of greens, and therefore from the bottom box of greens, you at least know the letters that they've got through to get to you. And so, assuming that people have a relatively small set of opening words, you can probably guess people's opening words from their patterns they're posting on the internet.
Well, that might be quite an interesting little analysis to do and see the most common words that people use. That's interesting. I'll have a think about that. There was another thing that I wanted to flag up while we're on this point. So I wanted to see, there's a lot of people talking about how to do this best, which is, obviously you want to solve the problem. I wondered if you could do it the worst as possible. So would it be possible to enter a list of 6 guesses that got you to the end of a Wordle puzzle and you never saw a yellow or a green? And it turns out that it is possible, but only for certain daily solutions. So for example, you can use the words if the solution is sissy, as it was on the 3rd day that Wordle came out, June 2021 or whatever it was. If the first word is sissy, you can put the second word ADDAX, ADDAX. You can then put the word buku, BUCKU, the word fees, FEEZE, the word girl, GRRRL, which apparently is a legitimate entry, the word jomon, JOMON, and then the word poofed, which is like poof, PHPHT, which is again a legitimate answer. And you can get to the end of a Wordle puzzle without ever seeing a green or a yellow. So if you are the worst player in the world, or you are trying to get a pattern of all blacks all the way through, even in hard mode, it is possible to do, but it depends on the solution of the day. You need to have a lot of words where you can put double letters, because obviously there's only 26 letters in the alphabet. If you're getting 6 guesses of 5, that's 30. So you need a few words with double letters in to get you through to the end. And it is possible for quite a lot of Wordle daily puzzles, but not all of them. I'll try. You
didn't happen to look what the nastiest words they use is, do you? Based on just looking at the list now, I predict that June the 27th this year, 2022, is going to be a tricky word for people to get.
So I will be able to tell you,
and I shall keep it
tomorrow
as to why.
I will tell you tomorrow, and I'll tell you in the upcoming video I'm going to make what I think is going to be the one that you can only solve in the worst number of steps, even if you're statistically the most accurate. So that's what I'm trying to get at. From that Gaussian that I make, I'll be able to tell you the easiest words to solve for and the worst words to solve for. And maybe some of the best sort of 3-word lists to try at the start as well should be useful as well. Another thing that we noticed, Ramsey, or you sort of put me onto, was this game Absurdle.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to discuss that a little bit?
So this one, is actively trying to ruin your day by being adversarial. So why don't you pop in your preferred starting word here, Sam, and I'll tell you what's going on under the hood.
So what this one does is try and fight back against the strategy that I found, basically. So I put in my
which
word.
means that, well, you're putting in your Wordle word. Do you have a different word that you use for Absurdle for this very reason?
No. I need to optimize this for Absurdle, but this
Oh, you haven't.
I haven't as yet. But this strategy that we use for Wordle should work quite well, because Absurdle is using the inverse of my strategy to fight back.
Yeah. So I think I've beaten Absurdle in 5 myself, just by trying to be clever. But I think you should be able to run your script and beat it in 4 would be a real stretch, but 5 definitely. So what's happened here is you've typed those words into Absurdle, and Absurdle didn't pick a word before you started. Now that you've put that word in, Absurdle has kicked out R-O-A-T-E from its list of possible words, and it's hedging its bets still on what word it's going to reveal to you later is going to be the word. So as you keep guessing, it's going to keep changing its word within the rules of what letters it's told you back, yellow, green, and gray, and it's going to try and stretch this game out as long as possible. So what you need to do now is put in 5 unique letters again, if you can, to really try and chop down
exactly
the
so we can go back to the script, right? And all that's changed is that it's asking me, or it's told me a different response. So in this case, it said, you put in row 8, fuck you, I've changed the answer to something that doesn't have any of those letters in, right? To be as adversarial as possible. So I put in row 8 and it says, sorry, row 8 has none of your letters in. So I rerun again and I can find that the answer that it tells me to put in, it's having a think. So see now that it takes a little bit longer to run because Absurdle's fighting back and keeping the bins quite big. So it tells me to put in slimy. Slimy is the best way to fight back against Absurdle, apparently. Now, I haven't optimized this for Absurdle, so I'm hoping to get 4. If I get 5, I'll be happy. Right? So we go back to Absurdle and we put in slimy. Slimy. So we enter it, and we started to narrow it down a little bit here, right? So row 8 and slimy have very common letters in. Very common letters that are in.
It's pretty good locking 2 letters in already.
So locking 2 in already is pretty good with Absurdle. So we go to back to the code, and we can put in slimy. So slimy. I don't want. So slimy. And we were told what? We were told black, black, yellow, black, green, were we? Black, black, yellow, black, green.
Yeah.
Black, black, yellow, black, green. And we'll run it again. My code is such a hack job, but it works, so I don't care. It's like it just looks like my PhD code, just awful. It tells me to put in the word kindy. I don't know what kindy means, but we will go ahead and put in kindy. So kindy, we enter it. Oh, here we go. Here we go. So we've locked in 2 greens, right? So the list of solutions, I've narrowed it down so quickly that Absurdle can't even shift away to any set of words that don't have 2 letters locked in place. So the strategy is working pretty well. So we'll put in kindy. And we have 2 greens, which are
probably steered you towards it's probably steered you towards a bank where there's still plenty of options.
Correct.
You see, I think what you'll find when you tweak your code to fight against Absurdle is that. So again, there's probably hard and easy modes on Absurdle, but if you go back to the shot of Absurdle again, I think the best strategies that you'll find, if you can employ them, is rows 1 and 2 didn't share any letters, and basically you should ignore the fact that you were told I and Y and put in a new set of unique letters in the 3rd row.
But you're not allowed to do that in hard mode. That's the problem.
Yeah, exactly. So it's whether Absurdle has rules about. But I mean, yeah, how just
So, for example,
yeah, exactly.
I've got hard mode on. If I was to try and put, I don't know, what would it? So something that doesn't have.
Well, yeah, I just won't let you.
It just won't let me.
If
So
hard
I
mode
don't
doesn't let you not use I and Y.
Can I? What's a word that I could put in? Goppy. Yeah.
Well, it will let you have that because it's got a Y in it.
But not an I in the right position. So I can't put it. Yeah.
It's not even letting you have that.
Because so it won't even let me have that. Right. So
Yeah.
I have to follow through basically. So if I put in kindy. So this is
that's how it can hold you to not doing it in 4.
Correct.
Because it'll always be able to shove you towards some silly, and Absurdle stops you from being lucky and getting your 1 in 10 guess, right? It just keeps changing the answer until you get it.
So black, green, black, green, and I can try that.
So you can probably only be Absurdle in 4 on easy mode then.
Quite possibly. So what it does is it steers you.
Definitely.
It steers you towards words.
You to use the same letters then.
It steers you towards words that are like have very similar structure, figgy, jiggy, these kind of things. So it's now telling me to try zippy or figgy, but they have the same standard deviation, so they're both just as powerful. And this is what it tries to do. So to get my 4, I'm going to have to try all of these branches.
Beyond this point, so beyond this point, if you use zippy or ziggy, either way, Absurdle will still have the same size box of next words to trick you with.
Correct.
Basically.
So the only way I can find a 4, a potential 4, is to try all of these branches.
So basically, it doesn't matter which one of those you put in at all.
It won't help. So they will help me, but they'll help me the same. So what I need to do in my code,
it just doesn't matter at all.
But what I need to do in my code is I need to run both of these and check which one's the best. Because of the curation of the word list, this might knock out more than this knocks out. It depends. But sometimes you just get stuck basically. Yeah. Sometimes it can force you into these cases, but there might be a special case where there's only one, let's say that's L-I-C-K at the end, and slick is in the word list, but click is not. So there's a very special curated set where it can't force me into this kind of little trap. But once I'm in this trap, it's always going to take 2 extra goes because I have no power anymore between these two. Yeah. I can't delineate between them. So I go in and I put zippy. It's telling me to put in zippy. So I go and I put in zippy, and it just fires back the same stuff because it's got those 2 choices. So it goes, aha, you said zippy. No, I've switched to the other one. It's switched to figgy or whatever it is, right? So I put in zippy, zippy, which had the same response as black, green, black, green. And I run that.
You'd just be in the same boat no matter which word you chose.
Correct.
You've just chosen the other
Correct.
one,
So I can't get away, unfortunately, with Absurdle. And then it tells me the answer is jiffy because that's all that's left. So if I go to...
So it's done it in... exactly. So done in 5 and not optimal. And that's in hard mode.
And that's in hard mode. 5 goes.
Oh, that's pretty good then. It'd be... Because, that's good. So it'll be really interesting to see if we can find a 4... I think there's definitely a 4-step solution in easy mode. It'd be really interesting if there's a 4-step one in hard mode when it's got so much flexibility.
So
it'll be by the right... It'll be all in those first 2 words, won't it? It'll be that if you tweak the rules of your program for this adversarial manner, it probably will still open you with roat, but it might give you a different second word based on because the optimal strategy here is to find you want to try and corner Absurdle in like a 1-word pit.
Yes.
Rather than this like 3-word pit.
You don't want it to exactly. You don't want to let it get you into these 3-word of zippy, figgy, giffy. You don't want it to let you get you into pits like that where there's no power between them. And it can do that a lot, like brick, trick, it can get you into these pits where there's no discriminating power, basically. A couple of questions in the chat from AB Coates. Said sissy is a particularly brutal word to use for a game like this. Yes, because if you can't find the S, you're kind of screwed. And he says, just a thought, what's the relative weighting of letters in the data set? So actually, if I go to here, yeah, I've got a plot of that. So I think I just have to turn off the thing that isn't letting it go any further. Well, I've just put some like break command in somewhere. Where did I put it? So I put in a break command somewhere down here, just so it didn't go past. But if I remove that, I should be able to get a nice plot of the, and I remove the things we've been doing. So if I just bear with me 2 seconds while I just get rid of these entries we've been doing, I can show you the letter frequencies that the potential Wordle solutions have. So if I just get rid of these, paste. I know this is not particularly exciting to watch, but it'll only take a second. Ramsey, do you want to talk about some other oddity while I'm just while I'm doing this? Have you seen Primal, by the way? So Primal is you have to find a prime number between 0 and 100,000. So we can try and break that as well. Should be a similar strategy, I think. But
based on the questions, I was just having a quick look down the word list for sort of nasty words that are coming up in the future. 1st of December this year is going to be a particularly nasty word because it's a word that I think most people would have just never heard of. I had to look at what it meant.
All right.
So that's going to be a
so this is just going to take
one.
This is just going to take 30 seconds a minute to run because there's no filter on it, right? So now it's having to run over the 13,000. So it's just it's having a little moment. So it's just going to be a couple of minutes. But yeah, so Primal, I think, which is the we can try and break that as well this week. So Primal, prime number guessing game. So there's a game for that. Is this it? Hacker News. Have we got a list for this? Primal. Is there a prime number? Surely there's a link for this. No. Prime number guessing game. I'm sure I've seen this. You've seen this, right?
Yeah, no.
Oh, here we go. Is it this one? Yes, here we go. So Primal. So where you have to guess a prime number, and every entry you have to put in is prime as well. So obviously it's very difficult for you to know off the top of your head what you're allowed to put in. So I'm going to have to find a list of valid prime numbers between 0 and 100,000. And thankfully, obviously, there's these lists. These lists exist.
They've not curated that list. I can't think of any naughty primes.
If you curate that list, it's going to be impossible without having tricky. The curated list. Yeah. So I might try. So this week I'm going to try to break this in 4. I think he said in the detailed explanation that it is possible to do it in 4, but I don't know if that's in hard mode, so we'll have to check. So if I do control search, no, I don't want to do that. What's the search command? I always forget. Control F. Control F.
Control F.
It's doing control search rather than control F. I think he said it is possible to do it in 4. Yes. The shortest known game of Absurdle are 4 games, for example.
Okay.
But I don't know if this is in hard mode, so I'll have to read this a little bit more and check.
Yeah, I can't see for my own name box. Can you just scroll? What were the 4 words?
It says, it is believed that 4 turns is optimal. It isn't possible to force a win in only 3. He's got airy, canst, dolma, and pupil. But this is easy mode though. This is easy mode because he's gone A.
Yeah.
And then I think this must be easy mode. No, hold up. So A, and then he has an A, so that's fine. He has an A, so that's fine. It could be hard mode. I'll have to. We'll have to check. Is that right?
Because he's managed to force it into a. I
think...
can't see because the way it's presenting, my boxes are covering.
Oh, right, okay.
The video stream's covering the
So
letters.
apparently somebody's showing one that could possibly be a 4 in hard mode. So I'll go and have a look and see if I can fix that this week. This is nearly finished now, so I can show you the frequency of words. But yeah, so this week I want to write up. It's quite hard for people to follow what all of the stuff we're saying, but I'm going to do a nice, well explained video with lots of graphics and stuff to explain what I've done, all the best strategies for playing the game. Hopefully break Absurdle, hopefully break Primal as well. So it's going to be a busy week for me. And I'll show you these word frequency lists in a second when it's got up to 10,000. So the reason some of these words are so good at thinning down the solutions is because there's an uneven distribution, as sort of A.B. Coates alludes to, of letters in Wordle solutions. So there's obviously not an even distribution of letters. Some letters come up far more frequently than others. So for example, E is far more common than X or Z. Basically they come up in order of Scrabble score, right? So if you get an E, what's an E in Scrabble? Like 1, and Z's like 10 or more or something, right? So they're based on the frequency of the letter in the English alphabet. So if I dump all this out, I've got some nice little plots. Oh, of course, I've got another break command here, so it's fine because I just have to click plus plus go go go. Go 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 go. And here are the lists of letters. Oh, have I commented these out so that we can't see them? Maybe I have, but we'll just keep running. Don't say I haven't done that. No, here we go. So here is the appearance frequency. Can you see this this plot, Ramsey?
Yeah, it's come through.
So here is the appearance frequency of first letters in Wordle. So what you can see is there's a lot of first S's, lots of words that begin with S. But as you kind of mentioned earlier, there's a hell of a lot of words that end in E, but there's not a lot of words that end in S. And what that tells us is that this list has been heavily curated, because what you would expect to see is a hell of a lot of words that end in, okay, R, T, Y, but you'd expect a hell of a lot of words that end in S because they're plurals of 4-letter words with an S on the end. And that's not what we see. So I think what's happened in the curation of the list is the removal of almost all plurals. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, definitely.
And if we want to look at the frequency of the letters, where is it? Need to number of letters in the answers to date. Did I comment out maybe I can get is it the graph up at the bottom? So the most frequently occurring letters. Why is it not showing me that graph? I'm sure I had a plot of this. Maybe I need to just uncomment these of code. So if I make these into code, maybe we can see this. So run that. I'll make this into code. Run that. Here we go. Here's the letter appearance frequency. Can you see that, Ramsey?
Yes.
So don't worry about the orange because that's not correct. But the blue is the letter appearance frequency of letters in the Wordle solution. So you can see there's a hell of a lot more E's, A's, R's, O's and T's than there are J's, Q's, X's, Z's and V's. So this is why the word row A is so powerful, because it basically is just all of the letters on the right hand side of the graph. R, O, A, T and E. So it has a hell of a lot of power to knock out a hell of a lot of answers in one go. And then we started to see with Absurdle, the next best word was slimy, which is the next sort of 5 or 6 along, roughly. S-L-I. Where's M gone? M's a little bit further down, and Y. Because you can obviously you have to have a valid entry. So it's basically taking the most frequent letters and knocking them out as soon as possible to be able to thin down the boxes as soon as possible. It's not perfectly what's happening, but it's it's a good handle on why some of these words are so powerful, because they knock out so many solutions so quickly because of the relative appearance frequency of letters in Wordle solutions. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it is. And probably a good place to start wrapping this up.
Yeah, I think so.
Away for an hour.
Yeah, exactly. So we've been doing an hour, and I think people are probably sick to death of letter frequencies. So this week, I'm going to write up everything I've done, make a nice video on this Wordle bot, try and break Absurdle, try and break Primal, and we will come back and see if we can get that nice little 4-letter solve on Absurdle. Ramsey, anything else to add before we go off?
No, so good. I was going to try and choose on some more warnings of the nastiest words coming up in the future, but I think I've given enough hints across today. People can always go and press F12 on the Wordle website if they want to see some future words for themselves anyway.
Exactly. So if you really want the solutions, I'm not going to give them out because people obviously love to play the game. If you do your Control U or F12 or whatever it is on your browser to bring up source code, do a little bit of digging around, you can find those answers there. And that's why we were in the Telegraph today, as and we're probably going to be hated figures in the Wordle community. So there we go. Ramsey, thank you very much for taking some time. Thank you very much for sorting out that little article. Maybe we can push some of these algorithms on them when they're ready. And let's pick this up later in the week, buddy.
Cool. Cheers.
All right.
Thanks, Sam.
Have a good evening, buddy. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. Yeah. Bye, everyone. Thank you very much for hanging out. And we'll catch you again next time.